Good afternoon, Northwest, and welcome to the November edition of Husky Headlines. I'm Raven Lopez.
And I'm Ellie Votipka. Hey Raven, are you going to go see the fall musical tonight?
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a great production. Have you heard about how hard they work just to put it together? Allison tells us more about what goes down before the lights go up.
This year, the Blue Valley Northwest Theater Department is putting on the show Catch Me If You Can.
Catch Me If You Can is about Frank Abagnale Jr., who is a 16-year-old who, after facing a difficult time of his parents' divorce, decides to run away to give them space and also run away from his troubles. And in the process of running away and finding himself, he begins forging checks.
He pretends to be a doctor, he pretends to be a pilot, he pretends to be a lawyer, and then he ends up, well, getting caught. And you know that at the very beginning of the musical, but it's how, not everything is always as it seems.
The fall musical has been in the works since August. With putting on such a large-scale production, there are many different moving parts.
Everything that goes into producing the production is, I would say, a lot of teamwork. As the production manager, a lot of my responsibilities reside in taking care of the actors. I make sure they all are memorized and I'm on script and I'm on book during the show. I do a lot of tech stuff, so I do the sound design and then I make some of the lighting choices, and I'm just kind of here to do all the technical things that there is not enough time for Mrs. Cohart to do.
This role is probably just the hardest role I've ever had, just because vocally it's really high, like in my register, and the songs are also just kind of challenging by themselves. And then acting-wise, it is incredibly difficult because I have to be like 4 different characters within my own character, because since he's a con man pretending to be different people, you have to be able to switch from this thing to back to yourself and then back to another fake version of yourself. It's really hard.
For the pit musicians, it's, I bet, the closest thing to a professional gig as high schoolers get. We don't have a lot of rehearsals. I hand them a book and I hand them a recording of a digital orchestration, and they have to practice their part, come to rehearsal pretty learned, and then we have the week before the show and the show week, and that's it.
There are a lot of different ways that we get costumes. Sometimes we do end up having to make costumes, but we have a lot of costumes in our costume loft. We do rent costumes, so we go through a costume company, and we tell them what we need, and then they tell us if they have it, and if they do, we rent it from them.
Putting on a show of this size is not without its struggles.
I have been doing theater for 13 years, and I still struggle with going out and performing in front of people because it takes so much courage, and you have to be very vulnerable in order to put yourself out there.
I think the hard part that people maybe don't understand about putting on a full-fledged musical is, although there are so many varying different tasks and groups working on seemingly totally different things, everyone's job relies on another person's job getting done. And as director, it's my responsibility to make sure that all the pieces are in motion so that nobody's job is delayed or hindered within the process.
And once all of these moving parts come together, the storytelling and community of the musical is able to shine through.
I think theater is really an amazing art form because it is so collaborative. So you'll get a whole bunch of different people coming together to tell one story.
It's really fun to be a part of something so big, There's just so many people involved in moving parts, and when it finally comes together, it just feels so good.
The show dates for Catch Me If You Can are November 17th through the 19th, and tickets are available on the BV&W Athletics website. This is Allison Jones for Husky Headlines.
Ellie, I heard you were taking up a new hobby.
Yeah, I did some baking. Well, at least I tried to.
With the fall season coming in, Husky Headlines wanted to celebrate with a Thanksgiving cooking competition. Americans eat over 50 million pumpkin pies every Thanksgiving, so why not challenge our own Headline staff member to make a pumpkin pie against Northwest Facts teacher Elizabeth Warren? We set up everything our cooks might need and set them off to get started on their pies. This is H2 versus Baking. Mrs. Warren has been a Facts teacher at Northwest for 6 years.
So I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I had a lot of family members that were teachers, and when I went to college, or the senior year into summer before college, I was like, I'll probably be a teacher. And I was kind of dead set on being a chemistry teacher. For some reason, I don't know why. I like science. So baking is science, chemistry, but with ingredients. And then I realized, the funnest classes I taught were facts, and I'd never thought about being a FACS teacher, and I was like, oh my God, what a fun job. I've always cooked. I've always helped my mom cooking. Growing up, it was just something we always did. We cooked like for Thanksgiving, for example, and just helping her throughout the weekend, weekdays, whenever she needed help. So kind of always have been in the kitchen, and it kind of has always come naturally to me.
On the other hand, for our staff member Eliva Tipka, baking does not come as naturally.
I came in, I was like, I'm gonna have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just gonna go wing it and probably copy Mrs. Warren. I really don't have much of a background in the kitchen, if making brownies from boxes counts, or just putting cookie dough in the oven. That's pretty much it.
One thing Ellie could improve on in her cooking is just not dropping eggs on the floor.
I had trouble getting the eggs. I'd put eggs in where you weren't supposed to put eggs in, and I'd drop eggs. That was my weak spot, but other than that, I feel like I did pretty good.
The one thing I would want Northwest students to know about cooking is that it's actually easier than you think. You just have to follow instructions, practice, and before you know it, you'll start making things that you never thought you could. I think cooking is really helpful, not only just for your future to, take care of yourself, but also show other people that you care and you love for them. The ways that one can learn how to cook, there's a lot. Take a FACS class, for example, or YouTube. I know everyone loves YouTube. TikTok, okay, it's shameful, but I do have TikTok. Can't find it, don't worry. But there's lots of cool recipes and people filming themselves doing stuff.
Once the pies came out of the oven, plated and presented, we brought in 2 judges to determine which pie was the best.
I'll wait for you.
Oh, thank you. How very courteous.
Very pumpkin.
It's very pumpkin.
Yeah. Presentation was good.
Not
the
bad
whipped
though.
cream
Yes.
line was really nice.
Simple. It's traditional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. Number 2. Okay.
I'm vaguely suspicious of number 2.
Do we eat that with it?
It was funny them trying to figure out what the pumpkin made out of dough was, because at first you can't really tell it's a pumpkin. It was more of just decoration.
I don't know. Let me try one more. Okay. So this has less pumpkin, like the pumpkin. Are you tasting that first one?
You can compare them. Pumpkin.
Pumpkin. This first thought, sweet potato.
After the judges said it tasted like sweet potato pie, I agreed with that. I think it was very sweet potato-y. I don't know enough about cooking to know why it tasted like sweet potatoes instead of pumpkin pie.
In the end, it was pie number 1, Mrs. Warren's pie, that the judges deemed the best. But Ellie's effort didn't go unnoticed. This is Rachel Gillen for Husky Headlines.
Hey Raven, have you read any good books lately?
Yeah, I just started reading Jujutsu Kaisen. We go to Brooke, who asks the people who know literature best for their book recommendations.
Northwest offers multiple honor societies for students with a variety of interests, but one that may be new to many in the student body is the National English Honor Society.
NEHS just started at Northwest last year, so this is only our 2nd year in existence.
E.K. Pearson is one of 4 NEHS sponsors, along with fellow ELA teachers Karen Punswick, Valerie Golden, and Deanna Elgin.
Students have to have a 3.5 or above in their English classes to be considered.
And then to keep your membership, you need to do certain projects throughout the year, and there are so many different ones that the students actually create. So it's a pretty fun organization, and if you love English words, reading, writing, anything like that, it's a great thing to be a part of.
Pearson, Golden, along with co-presidents Abby Craddofill and Reagan Cavan, share some book recommendations for this fall.
So personally for me, right now I'm in my murder, mystery, creepy type of phase right now. So this book, If You Tell, is a nonfiction book by Greg Olson. This is really interesting because the character, or the person that's actually mentioned in the book, is up for parole this year. So kind of an interesting story. Keeps you on the edge of your seat. Very, very upsetting, dark side of humanity for sure.
Another book I'd recommend is called Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson, and it's about a private school set, I think, in Vermont. And shortly after the school opened years ago, I think it's the headmaster's wife and daughter were found murdered, and the mystery's never been solved. And a student in the current time enrolls in the school determined to solve that mystery, and that's what the story's about. It's a fun mystery, it's a quick read, it's very entertaining.
Before the Coffee Gets Cold, this is a really interesting novel about a coffee shop where you can travel in time, but you can only do so when you're sitting in one seat, and you have to come back before your coffee gets cold. This is really interesting because it has magical realism, mystery elements, and it is also really contemporary. It's also pretty short for anyone who's looking for a quick book to do over break.
Little Fires Everywhere. This one is super popular. I know a lot of people have read it, but it is very enhancing. I think I read it in like 2 sittings. It was really great. It's about these 2 different families. One is kind of representing the American dream, like the ideal family, and the other is the opposite. And the story goes throughout these 2 families' lives and how they connect, and it's also definitely not predictable. And it kind of reflects like the fact that families are not always perfect, and in fact they might be more perfect in the unideal situation.
You can find all these books and more at our library, the Johnson County Library, or a bookstore. This is Brooke Trapito for Husky Headlines.
Hey Ellie, have you ever taken Spanish?
Nah, I'm in French. We go to Logan as he goes one-on-one with Senora Smith.
What do you think has caused you to stay all 14 years here at Blue Valley Northwest?
That's a really good question, and it comes up a lot when I help interview new teachers. Is they'll ask, why Northwest? Why are you here? And it really has felt like home for me the last 14 years, and the patience and help and encouragement that I've got as a brand new teacher coming in to this profession, and just seeing how much I've been able to grow and learn from everybody here. I love it here, and so it's just been a really good place for me.
What do you think makes teaching the most rewarding for you?
Oh, there's a lot of things that are rewarding in teaching, and I think it's those relationships with kids that, whether they come back and say, hey, I was able to use Spanish in my job, or even beyond that, just that they want to keep in touch and they want to tell you what's happening in their lives, and knowing that, I can be a person of support for them as they go through high school, which is hard. So I think that's the most rewarding part, is just the relationships and the connections that you're able to make.
You've obviously accomplished some great things here at Northwest, but what are some of your goals for this year and in future years here?
Some of my goals, always my goal is just to keep helping students, grow with their language, but also, since I teach Spanish, just as human beings, kind of to help them, guide them through, like I said, the process of high school. Part of my goal is that I really enjoy learning about second language acquisition, which is, how you acquire language. And so I try to read books and continue to read research, and I listen to podcasts, that sort of thing. So it's kind of the nerdy side of me that I really do enjoy, that kind of that personal goal is to keep learning. But, as a teacher, my goal is always just to keep supporting students in every way I can.
How do you feel that you've deserved such an award? Or do you feel that you've deserved an award like that?
That's such a good question. I think that, because it's hard sometimes. I think I had that thought when I was driving home. I was like, wait, they meant me, right? Like, why me? What did I do? I just kind of do what I love and go about it. So I think that there are so many deserving teachers of this, obviously, and there are different awards. And I know I mentioned to you other ways that we recognize teacher, like master teacher. So I think that it's hard to sometimes be like, yeah, I think I do, but I hope that it would be because they see I do work very hard, and I do care very deeply about world language, and I do care very deeply about Northwest and our students. So I would hope that would be the reason.
Well, congratulations for being nominated.
Thank you.
Northwest is incredibly grateful to have such an outstanding teacher in our building, and I am incredibly grateful to have had the opportunity to go one-on-one with Blue Valley Northwest's Teacher of the Year building nominee, Miss Andrea Smith. This is Logan Turk for Husky Headlines.
Right when I think I know a lot about Northwest, I always learn something new.
We go to Allison for the second edition of Northwest's 30th Anniversary Trivia.
Welcome back to another edition of BV&W Trivia, Huskies. We decided to ask about more unforgettable moments in the past 30 years of our school, shared with us by original staff members. How many original staff members still work at BV&W?
5. 4.
13. I think it'd be interesting to know if the students can name the 7 teachers that are still currently here that were here on the very first year. Miss Hess in the attendance office, Mr. Swanson in the business, and Miss Stolman in math, and Mrs. Anderson in social studies, myself, Mr. Maston in industrial tech, Mr. McCrossan in newspaper yearbook.
What popular toy was a club based around and sponsored by Mrs. Stolman?
Yo-yo.
Hot Wheels.
Slinky.
The weirdest club I ever sponsored was the Slinky Club, because we used to have, like, you had club time during the week, and so everybody had to go to a club. And so I had some kids ask me if we would do a Slinky Club. So what we would do is everybody bring boxes, and we would make Slinky courses, and then we would go outside or go in an open space and try and run Slinkies up and down them. So that's the weirdest club I've ever sponsored.
Finally, what did students hand to the principal at the first graduation?
I don't know, a note? Something like a flower.
Probably like a banana or something.
Well, I think the most memorable graduation was the first one. I don't know if it was the class itself, but we were outside. We were in the DAC before the last couple of years, or we've gone back to that. And every student that walked across the stage handed our principal a dog biscuit, since we were the Huskies. And when it first started, Dr. Kokrita didn't know what to do with them, so all of a sudden he started showing them off the back of the stage. So there was a pile of dog biscuits in the DAC out on the turf behind the stage at the time after graduation was over.
We hope you learned something new about the history of Northwest. Stay tuned for more fun facts in future editions of Husky Headlines. This is Allison Jones for Husky Headlines.
Speaking of learning new things about Northwest, did you know that the library has much more to offer than just books?
I'm curious what else it has to offer. We go to Nick, who tells us more about the library at Northwest.
If there's any place at Northwest that has people willing to help its students, it's in the library.
We have two certified, degreed, full-time librarians here that are experts in helping students get information and use information. And we love doing that, which makes us kind of weird, but that's really something that we get a kick out of. And so we're always available for students, and we can provide specialized help.
We have all sorts of resources, both online and here in person, that students can use to get help. We are here to help if someone is doing research and they need help finding sources or just how to put it together. So we are a good source. The place is a good place to be. It all works.
With the help of the library staff, students can benefit not only academically, but in their personal lives as well.
I think if a student is struggling, they need to have the time to do their work. They need to have the support to do their work. But they do have to also have a desire to do it. And I think if you have those things, this is a great place for you to pursue your responsibilities as a student.
There's these great resources here. There's great literature, all these awesome books to read, which isn't just great for a pastime and reading, but it's also critical to developing really the skills and the ability of our brain to think.
The librarians are dedicated to do their part in supporting the students.
I think being here every day is really important, and saying hello to them and making them know that they're welcome. I think that's really important to students. I think we try to provide consistent support and feedback to kiddos who come in. Those things I think are really important to students, and we do value that they come in, and we're happy to see them.
I think the very most important thing that I can do to support students is to be available and to make sure students know as soon as they walk in that we're happy they're here.
The librarians also have some special advice they can offer.
Well, we both have master's degrees in library science. We both have spent a lot of time working on higher level research skills, but having that knowledge as the background to what we do teach, I think helps kids know that if they can't find something in the traditional ways, there's other ways we can get the information.
We can take you deep into the research. When students have questions, especially about something they're just interested in, not necessarily a school project, we can help find everything because that's what we do.
With the incredible staff we have, the library certainly is an amazing place to work at. This is Nick Bogle for Husky Headlines.
God, I think I might be getting something.
Don't worry, I can give you some tips on how to stay healthy this flu season.
With winter right around the corner, the flu season is starting to creep into the building. We asked Northwest students what they are going to do to stay safe from the flu.
To stay safe during flu season, I make sure to always wash my
my hands and stay warm?
I think I stay safe during flu season by making sure I'm well rested and my eating habits are good and I'm taking my vitamins.
I'm gonna get my flu shot.
You know, I'm gonna get my flu shot too.
Probably flu shot. Flu shot.
I'm getting my flu shot.
I and like all my family got flu shots and just like trying to like wash your hands and everything. I'm making sure that if I don't feel well, like I go to the doctor and make sure like I'm distancing myself and staying safe and getting my flu shot.
I'm washing my hands for at least 30 seconds.
I don't share drinks with other people.
While the students shared several good ideas, Northwest has our own health expert to lay out the best ways to counter the flu season.
Take care of yourself physically is probably the most important way to take care of yourself. Getting enough sleep, eating right, taking vitamins, and just having overall good health. Also keeping your hands washed is paramount to staying well, and also trying to avoid people who are sick.
According to Imlay, making sure you have clean hands is one of the most important parts of keeping yourself protected from illnesses.
It is better to wash your hands. That's the gold standard. Sanitizing is the second best, and not washing is the worst, obviously. Hand washing is better because it actually removes the germs and the viruses from your hands, and they're washed down the sink. Sanitizing is a great option if you can't wash your hands because it kills a lot of the viruses and the germs, but it doesn't kill all viruses and germs. So some of them might still be on your hands, or it will kill them, but it's still on your hands. So that's why washing is the gold standard. It just gets them all off and they go down the drain.
Though washing your hands is a huge help to staying safe, sleep can make a huge difference to your physical well-being.
My best tip for staying healthy is sleep. You have to sleep. You need 7 to 8 hours of sleep, and studies have shown that if you don't get 7 to 8 hours of sleep, you are more likely to get colds and flus.
Though there are many ways to stay healthy, there is always the chance that you can get sick. But in that case, you can help prevent getting other people sick by staying home and not exposing others.
Generally with fevers, it's 24 hours. Vomiting, diarrhea, it's 24 hours. Influenza, COVID, 5 days. Strep, 24 hours with antibiotics.
Following these recommendations will help you stay healthy while fighting against the various illnesses that are going around this year. This is Ellie Votipka for Husky Headlines.
We've had much success in fall sports this year.
Let's rewatch some of the outstanding plays our athletes have made this season.
Good afternoon, Northwest. I'm Brooke Trapito bringing you this month's edition of Top 10. At number 10, we have junior Lainey Douglas getting a kill in a game against Olathe North on October 22nd. The Huskies would go on to win 2-0. At number 9, we have Dylan Eblin throwing a strike at a unified bowling meet on October 19th. The Huskies would go on to place first out of 10 teams. At number 8, we have the girls volleyball team beating Olathe North 2-0 at Sub-State on October 22nd. They would go on to lose to Mill Valley 2-1 in the Sub-State Championship, ending their season at 24-11. At number 7, we have the football team defeating Olathe East 28-21 to advance to the regional championship. They would go on to lose to Gardner Edgerton 28-19, ending their season at 6-4. At number 6, we have senior Sam McIntosh scoring a goal against Bishop Miege to break the all-time goals record with 32 goals. The boys soccer team ended their season with a record of 10-4-2. At number 5, we have the Northwest Band being crowned the overall grand champions at the Niwala Festival on October 29th. The band also won Best Percussion, Best Color Guard, and Best Parade Marching. At number 4, we have senior Elena Pearson winning EKL Defensive Player of the Year in girls volleyball. At press time, she was also up for KC Metro Defensive Player of the Year. At number 3, we have senior Leah Eckerson taking 5th place and senior Abby Allen taking 8th place at the EKL Cross Country Championship on October 22nd. Leah would go on to take 13th at the state championship on October 29th. At number 2, we have girls tennis taking 5th overall at state with senior Emily Chasen winning 2nd place in singles and juniors Serafina Wambi and Lydia Pang winning 5th in doubles on October 16th. And finally, at number 1, we have the Northwest Unified Bowling Team taking 2nd place at the regional championship on November 8th. The winning team is comprised of Elijah Henderson, Bailey Kinkler, and Dylan Eblin. Their 2nd place finish qualified them for state on November 14th. At press time, their state results were not available. That's it for this month's edition of Top 10. This is Brooke Trapito with the help of Raven Lopez for Husky Headlines.
What are you doing?
Just talking to some friends about getting to the paintball field sometime soon. You ever played?
Nope, but there's a club at Northwest that certainly has. Eli tells us more.
Blue Valley Northwest has a multitude of clubs. Some have been around for decades, while others were made just this year. For several clubs, there is a resurgence from one graduating class to another years later. An example of this is the Paintball Club.
Well, last year we had a friend named Patrick Segura. He introduced us to paintball, and none of us knew what the sport was or anything about it. We've never played before. But then slowly we started getting more into the sport. He taught us more about it, and then eventually we were prompted to start a club. When most people hear paintball, they think it's painful, which is a common myth. While initially it might be painful, as you play more and more, you'll learn that it is not that painful, and it's more of a fun sport than anything. It can be quite pricey when compared to other sports. However, if you're committed for the long run, it shouldn't be too expensive.
I think it's just a lot of fun, you know. It hasn't been going for that long, but so far it's been pretty fun. I know a lot of people get discouraged from playing paintball because they think it's gonna hurt, but in reality it's not that bad. You know. At worst, you'll get a slight bruise. But it's more like, it feels like a slap, you know.
The paintball club primarily meets up at Yeager's Paintball Center. It is built within and on top of one of the oldest limestone caves in Kansas City, and is the first and only underground paintball arena in the world.
So the field opens around 10 a.m. and it closes in the evening around 8. So usually we stay there for a while, like 4 or 5 hours.
But Yeager's is not the only place they meet up. They host meetings in Northwest where they discuss future meets and answer questions. The Paintball Club is holding its next game on the 19th of November at Yeager's from 10 to 4, and if you're interested, they could always use a new member. This is Eli Dunley for Husky Headlines.
That's it for the November edition of Husky Headlines.
Have a great day, Northwest.